So just like how John Wall had dropped the game on the league having no vets, and the Houston Rockets kind of going through the trials and tribulations, especially with the young players not quite having an understanding what the league is really all about. Damian Lillard has sat down and kind of gave the same game, as at the time he came into the league where it was transitioning from the three-point shooting era was just coming in, and also the league was a lot older with vets, as the league was also transitioning out of that phase and getting younger and younger. And he also dropped game on how the league was kind of missing something and giving young players keys to the franchise a little bit too early.
I mean, I would say the biggest difference is, how do I put it?
Say it.
I'm gonna say it. No, that ain't the problem. I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? When I came in the league, I put it like this. When I came in the league, like Jason Kidd was starting for the Knicks, and Grant Hill and Kurt Thomas and Kenyon Martin, you know, it was like real older dudes in the league. I played with Jared Jeffries. He was 40 or 41 or something. Earl Watson was 40 when I played with him. I played with like real vets, and it was a lot of stuff that I learned like about being a point guard, or, you know, how to lead from Mo Williams and Earl Watson and Jared Jeffries.
And a lot of that stuff that he learned is how to be a professional. And that's very important. How to practice, how to eat properly, how to handle, you know, media situations. These are a lot of things that you can see from teams like the Houston Rockets. They're very unpolished. And Jalen Green, man, he has to be very careful because he's had, I would say, a brand new route into coming into the NBA. And right now he's gotten a lot of validation from the Houston Rockets. But a lot of it is based on falsehoods, because they're still kind of playing a playground style of basketball, and it has nothing to do with winning, especially in the NBA.
And they didn't even play, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just the way that they showed me how stuff had to be done. I had no choice but to respect the game. You know, I didn't have, the word I was looking for is entitlement. Like, when I came in the league, you had to earn not just what you get from the team or like the respect. You had to earn your space on the team. You know, it was no, oh, you the sixth pick of the draft, it's your team. Like, what is this your team stuff? You know what I'm saying?
And all this kind of it's your team stuff kind of began with the Carmelo and LeBron James era. When those players came in, especially Melo, George Karl used to talk about this, Melo's second coach, where that was ushering in the era where teams were just like, hey, this is the guy. We're going to give the franchise to him off rip. And it kind of gave the players a false sense of entitlement. I always thought players like Melo kind of suffered from this, especially from the early part of his career, where off rip, he was kind of given certain privileges and he was kind of ignoring coaches, as once again, his first two coaches, he was having issues with them because his team was giving him way too much validation.
And I think now the biggest difference is you don't have that veteran presence. So you got players who are more talented than ever coming into the league. They're getting picked, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're making more money than those picks ever made. So not only that, now you're giving them the keys to the franchise. There, you know, there's nobody there to really let them know, like, you super talented, but like, you got to earn stuff around here. You know what I mean? You got to earn your way. So they come in and everything is just given to them from the beginning. So that affects how they are, the way they play. Like, they play for themselves. They play for stats. They, you know, think that they're LeBron James when they make an all-star game, or, you know what I'm saying? They get a max contract.
It's all under false pretenses. Of course, if your team lets you shoot about 20 shots a game, your averages, of course, are going to be up, especially in this league today with the way the rules are. But let's not forget to add on hype culture on top of that. All these brand new media outlets that have highlight reels of these players from, you know, high school all the way to coming into the league. These players are already hyped up, and you add on top of that the NIL deals and these guys monetizing their image and all the hype around them. It could lead to a false sense of reality, especially coming into the league where all the players are good.
It's just different. I don't know how to completely put it together, but the NBA I play in now is not the NBA that I came into. And I expect it to evolve. Everything is constantly changing. But like, I feel like I play for the love of the game. Like I want the competition. I want to know what it feels like to win. I want to see my teammates do well. I want to see my teammates get paid. You know, like I enjoy the bonding part of it. Like we spend more time with each other than anybody. But now it's like,
yeah, now it's like these guys are already coming in rich. It's funny because if you look at a lot of these NBA teams, guys bond very close together when nobody's really paid yet. But then once the team starts handing out these big contracts, guys tend to start separating. It's strange, but the same kind of concept applies outside of the NBA. A lot of people have very close friends in high school and no one's really rich or anything. Everyone's kind of like, kid broke. That's when you tend to have your closest relationships. But then when guys start getting older and guys start getting their jobs and getting established, just normal people tend to separate, and friendships and bonds don't tend to be as close the older you get. But at the end of the day, Dame and John Wall kind of gave the same game. And all this pertains to teams like the Houston Rockets. And believe me, the Rockets are not the only team in the NBA that are suffering from this issue. There's other teams that have the same problem. And it's kind of a juggling act that Adam Silver is going to have to make between the league getting a lot younger and guys coming into these franchises with this hype machine behind them, and franchises kind of banking on these guys to be the monetary benefit and carry the franchise, I would say, into the positive when it comes to making money. So it kind of creates this gray area where a lot of these players can come in with a false sense of entitlement. Now, Damian Lillard kind of gives you a player's perspective on young guys coming into the league, this sort of highlight reel hype culture that's going on, and some of the nuances that are going on with those players behind the scenes, and how older players or just veteran players are kind of looking at them at their perspective versus how they came into the league.
Guys who have it when they're 15.
no, I think that's definitely something that is in my favor, that doesn't get talked about. I didn't have to deal with, people trying to, like these kids got managers and handlers and all these things. The hype, people handing them stuff and they getting free shoes and cars and people taking care of them because they want something on the back end and stuff like that. I didn't deal with that. So I didn't get influenced in no way, how some kids have and might get influenced. So I think that is in my favor, and it helped that I went to school, when I got to school, I was coming off the bench, you know what I mean? Like, we doing conditioning tests and they just like was on my ass at Weber. Like I go to class, coach waiting outside my class, making sure I'm not late, like couldn't miss a single class. It was like,
that's discipline right there. That's discipline. That's what a lot of the younger players are missing. That same discipline gets applied to when they become a professional, to eat good, to get sleep, to not to go out and turn up, as we see Ja Morant does. This is the type of discipline that happens, that kind of trickles on to the court when they get to that next level, that professional level. And we see the Houston Rockets especially, they're missing a lot of this. They're not disciplined. And at times the Memphis Grizzlies too. They're not disciplined in certain situations. They need more vets.
Stuff like that made me as disciplined as I am now, So I definitely think that experience plays in my favor. But also, like, when I think about, like, my parents, like, my dad would have never went for no agent with me and a handler and all of this stuff that's happening now. Like AAU coaches being like out front for these kids. Like my dad was telling me when I entered the draft, like if an agent called you, they need to call me. Like if somebody reach out to you, like during my season, my last year in school, it was like, if an agent reach out to you, give them my number. They shouldn't be calling you. Like my dad, like by the book, he don't play none of the weird shit. Like none of the, I don't care how stuff goes, like we not participating. So like.
Yeah, it gives players from a young age a false sense of reality, especially being a teenager. It doesn't really make sense that an agent is calling you and speaking directly to you and not your parents. But a lot of these kids, man, they're already prepped up from a young age to getting what they want, that their talents basically results into monetary benefits or getting gifts. It's a very strange way a lot of these young players are coming to the league. It's almost like they're falling in love with what their talents gets them, instead of falling in love with the game itself or just the rigorous practices or just disciplines in order to perfect their game.
I think it was in my favor, but I don't think it would have ever been an option even if I was like a top player or something, because my parents just wasn't going for shit. Like to this day, they not going.
Yeah.
Like
It is interesting. As you asked that question, he's talking about this. I'm like thinking back to like all of the in-person podcasts that we have done. And sometimes, like today we meet a player where his team is staying. We buy a room, spend our money, all that
it's
stuff.
expensive room,
For a lot of
man.
money.
And like sometimes like there'll be, I remember one time we did it with Joe Ingles and they had the Jazz digital media staff there. Like, I'm not talking about that, but
Yeah, that happens with some teams. OKC used to be like that with Westbrook and Durant in their early days. They were very protective of them. A lot of teams are like that.
I think about the interviews we've done with the least amount of people in the room. Like, there's nobody in the room right now.
Yeah.
It's just Dame. Steph was one. Steph,
Yep.
his bodyguard. I get it. Steph had one person in the room. And then other times we've had
20.
9.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Could you imagine? I mean, we've done one with a young guy where there's 9 people in the room sitting right there, all standing right there. Listen.
That's hype culture right there. JJ is giving you some insight. That's hype culture right there. Stephen Curry, superstar, Dame, superstar. They show up to interviews almost by themselves with just one person, a bodyguard, maybe like a handler. But these young players did not even make an impact in the league yet. They're showing up with 9 PR guys, an image consultant person. This is crazy, man. This is crazy.
And it's just interesting to me. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't actually think there's anything wrong with that. I don't. The cultural shift of players coming in now. You guys have both touched on this. Austin Rivers talked about this. The mixtapes at a young age. You said entitlement. I don't think that's far off. I think it can be harsh if you generalize that about an entire group of players, but certainly I've had younger teammates as I finished up that I saw a little of that sense entitlement.
It's common, bro.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, and this is an example I'll give you. We lose last night, you know what I'm saying? And it's like we lose. Obviously, you come back the next day, you don't want to come out and be like, okay, we're gonna have practice. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we not, on our team, it's almost like we got practice tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And this is not me knocking my teammates, because we had a really like a hard, real practice. You know what I'm saying? But like our team is like, they're on a team with me. So we talk about this stuff, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, look, this the way it is, like this the way it goes sometimes. And they'll accept it. But when you don't have somebody on your team that's letting you know how it should be, and they respect you enough because they see your real behavior, just imagine like what's really happening. There's so many teams out there that don't have it. You know what I'm saying? So they're probably really getting up like, why are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would we be practicing? I've seen interviews from young players where they'll ask, and it's like, what if you guys had, practice the day after a back-to-back? And I've literally seen interviews where they're like, I ain't going. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, if we had a back-to-back, you never have practice the day after after a back-to-back. That's hard. I don't think that's ever happened. But if it did happen, you say a time, I would just be like, all right, like, obviously we probably not come in here and start scrimmaging, but like, I'll be there. You know what I'm saying? So like, to have that type of mentality, that's like an example of what the mentality is. It's just like.
But this is where I say, and Nate has touched on this in regards to load management, it's not necessarily, that part of it to me is not necessarily just on the players, because they entered the NBA at a time when there were cultural shifts around practice. Like, we had knee pads and taped ankles for an hour and a half shoot-arounds for 5 years with Stan Van Gundy. So that's what I came into the NBA with. These guys are not getting that same experience, and so they're not experiencing it well. To me, this is maybe I'm an old man, but to me, the bigger issue is I'm not quite. This is not a generalization on an entire group of young players. It's not. I think the bigger issue becomes something you kind of touched on when you talked about your love of the game. The bigger issue becomes, do you love basketball more, or do you love the things that basketball gives you more?
And it's important to understand how they came into the game. They came into the game from a very young age, seeing that their talents are giving them gifts. So subconsciously, they kind of equated to that. And a perfect player who did not make the NBA and is a prime example is, I believe, with Lenny Cook. They said he was better than LeBron. But if you look at his documentary, you understand how he fell in love with basketball. He didn't fall in love with basketball in order to be the best or to develop his talents. He fell in love with basketball because he saw that basketball got him stuff. He got things through basketball. That's why he fell in love with it. And it's very important how these guys fall in love with the game. I believe a lot of these guys that are coming into the league now, they actually fell in love with the game because it brought them monetary benefits. That's the thing that does not get talked about enough. But going back to what Dame and JJ spoke about, with a lot of the parents accepting agents and accepting gifts, it might be also a generational thing. A lot of their parents now, they're not old school as Dame's father was. As you know, speak to me first, and we're not accepting this and we're not accepting that. As you see, Dame had called them accepting gifts and agents as weirdo stuff. But it's a different generation of parenting, and a lot of their parents actually grew up on social media themselves, and they're used to instant gratification. So it's a different culture even being passed down in the home nowadays. And we're going to see this new crop of players, I don't want to say come into the league very entitled, but they're definitely going to come into the NBA already rich through the NIL deals and other outside ventures that took place for them when they were on their come up.
That's where I think we run into problems when players are on that fall into that second slot, where they love what basketball gives them and they're entering the culture they're in right now. Right. We don't have the vets. There's a de-emphasis on vets, and the organizations have shifted a little bit of accountability. That's where we start running into problems. That to me is the issue.
No, I agree. And that's why I'm always like, I always talk about the people I came into the league and played with, because I know that is needed. You know, you need vets in the locker room. You know, it's not by mistake Udonis Haslem is in Miami and he never plays. Like, I don't think he's played like seriously in like 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he's got into a game here and there.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's known though. You know, it's known like he got a presence with these dudes. Like, what he say means something, and he knows what to say, and he knows what they need to know. So like, I feel like it should be somebody like that, or maybe two players like that in every locker room.
Facts. Definitely facts. And Haslam definitely needs to be a consultant for the Rockets to put some boots and some asses over there. Because those guys, man, in that franchise, they're developing a lot of early bad habits for their young players.
Because, like you said, like, they didn't come into a culture where like they was learning to move on the same principle. So they just won't know. So I feel like it's just necessary. Look at the league though, just so the league doesn't just start to, you know, just look too much like entertainment. Like, you want it to be like about the game, and like for people to watch it and be like, man, them dudes care. You know what I'm saying? Like they fighting for it. Like, I think about.
And that's a well-balancing act that the league is trying to put on right now. The entertainment side versus the basketball side. As we've seen them tweak the rules a lot, making it, you know, kind of free mobility for the offensive players. You know, everything is kind of in their favor. The league is kind of balancing between that entertainment and basketball. Sometimes if they want to, you know, make the game more entertaining, they got to take away from the nuances of the game. They got to tweak the rules a little bit there. So they take away from the beauty, the art of the actual game. And some of these young players already coming into the league with their own personalities on social media, it's definitely going to be even a harder balancing act, because the league definitely for sure markets their stars based off of their social media personalities, as we see with Ja Morant.
What was it, the finals in 2010? Boston and LA, where it was like, it's really them against them. Like, it felt like it was just them against them and everybody else was watching. It didn't look like, oh, he's had a triple-double in every game in the finals. And when this guy does this, this is what it's like, bro, just let him, just play. Like, this team against that team.
Or he has drama with this person, or used to play on this person. As you see, TNT, they brand their NBA coverage off of the drama. Kevin Durant used to play with Kyrie. Now watch Kevin Durant versus Kyrie. I mean, TNT's whole brand, they even have a model, the NBA on TNT, we know drama. Like, they base their marketing kind of on things outside of the game. And like Dame said, when it comes to watching basketball, if it's a real game, the fans are kind of just on the outside just watching, when guys are like locked in, and it's beautiful to watch.
I'm saying, like, it's going away from being that simple. You know what I'm saying? It feels much more like entertainment and politics than like the game.
I want to ask about
And it definitely does feel like entertainment and politics at times, but it is what it is. The younger players, it's just, there's a whole lot of hype coming into the league, but it does feel like nothing but entertainment and politics. But at the same time, the league and the game itself has a beauty to it, a natural beauty to it. And it's always going to be a balancing act between the money, the entertainment, and the game. And as technology evolves and the culture of the AAU, the NCAA with the NIL rules, and also the G League, and some of the ways that they try to promote and monetize the athletes taking that route. And also even on the international level, some of the international guys coming over into the States. It's going to be very interesting to see how the league balances all these things, especially with the marketing and promotion and how they handle their younger players. So we'll see how that plays out. Until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.